Sound different? Check. Think differently? Check. Double check. Triple check. Make their diversity authentic, not oversimplified, and definitely not villainized. And it's that
Yes.
last part that's hard. If it's, you know, like I told you, I love Rachel, I love Iago. I don't know if you know, Iago's a horrible human being.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel is a horrible human being, quite frankly. But you can't villainize that person, or it's not going to be a delightful character to, you know, it's like, I really enjoyed figuring out how someone that narcissistic ticks. And I think Barbara Kingsolver does an amazing job of creating this like really full view of someone who's like that. And she isn't really a villain. It's just, you just can't, she's like, she just can't help herself. She just keeps behaving that way. So that, I think that's very hard. That's why I think Kingsolver is such a masterful writer. She manages to do that with several characters, including Nathan, who, you know, he drags his whole family into this place where they almost all die several times over, and he doesn't do a thing to help them. It's amazing. He's a father, right? Isn't that his job? No. So yeah.
So just to close what David said earlier, it's like, or James said, is it, how do you take yourself out of the equation? Is it, as you said, empathize, or these, you said, you know?
I think finding a way to have empathy is really important, but I think that initial, you know, I mean, every workshop I've ever been in, one of the things that you'll be told is you need to flesh out an entire character sketch about this person that's going to be
Right.
even a minor character in your work. Everything about them, what they like to eat. But it may not, none of it may ever end up in your book, but you need to flesh out who this person is, what makes them tick, what kind of romantic relationships would they prefer, all of that, because it helps you to get a fuller understanding of the human. And we don't often allow ourselves in our exchanges anything beyond the superficial, do we?
Yes.
True.
Think about how few people on this planet you really know in your personal relationships. It probably is not very many. We just don't bother. And so as writers, we can't afford to do that, can we? We're just gonna write a really crummy book. That'll probably sell, millions of copies while we're struggling, but hey. I'd rather be Kingsolver. She does very well, by the way. But that's, I think, the empathy piece is really important to getting at that understanding. So it's a lot more work, I think, is what I've come to, than sometimes we want to do. But if you're going to do the job well, that's what you have to do. And one thing, more homework. Just one thing. If you're working on something right now.
You spend too much time as a teacher.
She's loving this.
No, he's absolutely right. If you're working on something right now, especially if you're in revision, and especially if it has dialogue, but as you're going back and looking at characters, take a look at this. Take a look at, have you given this character a definite, distinctive voice? Is there caricature in there, or have you managed to make this person a full-bodied human with all of what that entails? One exercise you might do, especially if you've got dialogue, is just take out the dialogue, like all the identifiers and tags and stuff, so that you have no idea who says, just the lines, and scramble them, and see if you can tell. You put it away for a day, come back, and see if you can tell who it is that's talking, who says each line. If you can tell, then you wrote it well. You know who it is. If you can't tell, you blew it, right? Everything's sounding the same.
That's great.
Everything's sounding the same. So that's a fun thing for you to do, and I hope you find that it's all different and wonderful.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that I did really enjoy that book. But one of the things that I noticed in the beginning of the book, she would always start the title with who was talking. And then towards the end of the book, you knew who was talking, and there were no clues.
Yeah.
There were no titles at the top of the page, but you knew.
It's good.
like halfway through the book.
It's a
she stops.
it's a wonderful book. I taught that book for, 10 years. And, I never had a student that didn't really enjoy it. Just, it speaks to everyone. Everyone finds of someone, something recognizable in it. There's a lot of the story. We learned a lot of history. I remember I co-took that one with a social studies teacher, and I remember the first time I met with her, I said, "Did the CIA really do that?" And she's like, "Oh yeah." And she hands me all this stuff because she had been starting the research for what she was going to do in her part, and what they had done to manipulate the election in the Congo and all this. And I was like, I had no clue because I was 5 years old when this book starts, when it's set. So. That is it, but you do have summer reading now if you haven't read Clouds, or you haven't read Poisonwood Bible, highly recommend. There are a lot of other books that use multiple voices really beautifully. If you prefer a different genre, go find them and see how it's done.
James is a really good example of dialect. You've read James, right?
Yes.
Yes, so I just wanna bring that up, that's a really, I just read it, it's really excellent in the use of dialect. And same person who has to speak different dialect depending on the circumstances.
James who? James?
What's the name of the book, James?
James, by
It's
Percival.
I-
Percival Everett.
Percival
I knew
Everett.
it was a
Gotcha.
really
His new book.
old-fashioned name, but I couldn't pull it.
I was thinking Henry James.
You were thinking what?
Henry James. Henry James is one of my favorite American authors, but
Robin, I think you did a great.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. That was awesome.
I have always preferred when we do stuff that has to do with craft, because I think, we all need it all the
Yeah,
time.
got you.
right?
You're
Great.
right
It
about
helps
that.
you thinking the right way.
No,
So,
definitely.
I can't wait to read what you write this summer.
Oh, man.